by the realization that humanity is facing unprecedented social, intellectual, environmental, and spiritual challenges. So our programs explore new ways of facing these challenges by using the artist as both a lens and a catalyst. When humanity comes together and combines the ideas and talents of many, we have the ability to navigate what once appeared to be impossible. In the nature of our topic and discussion today, in the virtual environmental situation room, the future of artistic materials in India and worldwide, we will focus on current environmental discourses as exemplified in each panelist's work and community outreach and their impact and consequences. Within this framework, we may touch upon some of the profit invasion or results of collapse, taking control of endangered territories and populations. As part of this, the Creation versus Collapse webinar series, its overall theme. This theme was featured in the 5th Kala Chaupal newsletter as a way of observing the world during the magnitude of the global pandemic crisis. With our discussion today, we hope to broaden perspectives about environmental situations you are all deliberating upon through the nature of your work, particularly in reference to materiality. I am delighted to be with the distinguished panelist, YASMINE Ostendorf from Netherlands, founder of the Green Art Alliance Lab, Arun Kumar, HG sculptor, installation artist, and trustee of the Sarah Center, and Lauren Fournier, vernacular and ecological architect from India. To give the panelists optimal time, I'm asking them to please introduce themselves through their projects and describe their personal, regional, and global traceries that make up the narratives of their work. YASMINE, as the Kala Chaupal serves as a kind of floating cultural center that's also an eco center, I thought it would be appropriate to start with your presentation, including the creation of the Green Art Alliance and your research lab at your university, the Eyck Academy in Maastricht. Welcome, thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Helen and Botanica for organizing this. Really amazing. Shall I share my screen for the presentation?
Yes, please.
Great. Share screen. Oh, the host disabled attendee screen sharing, it still says. On my, yes. Ah, yeah, great, perfect, thank you. There we go. Yeah, so the Green Art Lab Alliance is what we call a knowledge alliance of cultural institutes, arts organizations, both in Asia, Latin America, and Europe, come together to share resources. They share knowledge, they share trust and solidarity with each other's practice. We've been around for a few years now. We started in 2013 with support of the European Commission. Here you see some of our partners across Asia. When I say that we share resources, that's in kind of different shapes and forms. It means it's both kind of practical and also artistic. So that can be through exchanges and collaboration projects, but it's also very practical in the sense that we give sometimes juridical advice, we sometimes give advice on how to reduce your carbon footprints. Can you still hear me? Afternoon. And we develop practical guides too. So whether that's kind of funding guides on where people can find funding, but also, one back, these mappings that you see here called creative responses to sustainability, which are mappings of what are like innovative practices in different countries in relation to environmental issues. Can people still hear me, or?
Please mute themselves. Linika, mute.
Yasmine, I'm trying to mute everyone. People, please mute.
Actually, there's some disturbance. Some people are talking.
Okay, I think this is better. Can you hear me still, at least? Great, thank you. So the image that you see here is a selection of practical guides that we made, creative responses to sustainability, looking at innovative practices in different countries. So you see selection of Indonesia and Korea, Spain, Singapore. So they would zoom in on what are like environmental challenges in the different countries. In Singapore, you see an exemplar about land reclamation, for instance, hydroelectric dams. In Korea, land rights issues. In Indonesia, there's a project about river ecologies in the Danube, etc. So when I speak of like practical resources, that can be in the shape of these guides. It can be in the shape of practical information regarding legal issues, but it can also be in regards to reducing your environmental footprint, for instance, through looking at energy, waste, water, and mobility. One other element, and that kind of segues into our conversation today, is in relation to materials that artists use. What we noticed that there is a lot of interests from artists to engage with environmental issues and to communicate about climate, and people are very concerned, but often there is not you can also make a lot of decisions regarding your own practice, and that knowledge is not always available to everyone. So one of the things that we also set up at one of the partners, which is the Jan van Eyck Academy in Maastricht, is this idea of a future materials bank, and it's an inventory into materials that are non-toxic, biodegradable, circular, sustainable, etc., that we have organized in various different categories. So here you kind of slowly walk in. So here you can see the categories. So we're looking at glues and polymers. We're looking at pigments and dyes, biomaterials, eco-synthetics, and textiles and fibers. And one of the materials that we're actually adding to this now, which I think is a very problematic one, but we have to talk about it, is technology. So just to give a little example of what's in here, for instance, what you see up here, this is a walnut oil. This is to make a natural oil paint. So if you mix these with earth pigments that you actually see here on the table, you can make a completely natural oil paint. There's also some examples of, for instance, a fish glue here that's made out of fish bones, or a carnauba wax, which is a wax made out of a palm, a plant, but also a milk glaze, for instance, so for glazing your ceramics. Then in regards to pigments and dyes, I think this is like much more known and much more practiced, of course. We have a walnut ink made out of black walnuts, for instance, and we've worked with an artist Argentinian artist Lucila Kenny to every season make a different kind of color palette of the plants that we have growing in our garden. So this is actually the winter season that you see here. There is some woad, there is some cochineal, which is made out of like lice. It's a very bright red pigment, but also very simple things like onion skins. There is calendula, various natural materials that you could make pigments and dyes of. I think the biomaterial section is quite interesting. Lately, there's been a lot of interest, for instance, in mycelium, which is basically the kind of root network of mushrooms that you can compress and feed to make certain building blocks or even in sculptures. So up here, you would see a mycelium that has been fed with porridge oats, actually. But then this round one has been fed with husk of the rice. We also always encourage artists to really kind of look at their own backyard. You know, what have you got close in your environment? And we happen to have a garden with a soil that is very clay. So we dug a 3-meter deep hole, and here you see a selection of the clay that we made from it. There's also some more experimental materials in there, such as like a material that is made out of waste blood from an abattoir. So how that can be processed in a way into a material, or eggshells, for instance. There is a cellulose, etc. There's a whole range of things that are more kind of bordering on circularity. So what are the waste streams of our society that you can make new materials out of? But also what are the materials that we have close to us? And also what are the materials that we can grow? Then to move on to the fourth section, the ecosynthetics. There is also a mixture of materials that are recycled or upcycled. I think we also need to be kind of honest and transparent that a lot of ecosynthetics, it's still not perfect in terms of its footprint. You know, there are still mixtures, for instance, that are being used, which means that they can't be recycled afterwards. But I think part of the whole debate is also being transparent about what we use, and also realizing that there is not always the perfect solution for everything yet. Then textiles and fibers. You see, this is an interesting material that I'm kind of touching now with the cursor, developed by a Dutch artist called Diana Scherer. And she made a textile out of the roots of grass. So you can make a whole network that kind of is almost like woven like a tapestry. What you see down here is a Piñatex. It's from a Filipino company who make like a textile out of waste from pineapples, so the skin of the pineapple. And then they collaborated again with actually a designer in London who also has been able to spun it into a material that you can use in clothes. So it's also often collaborations, you know, the product starts here, they make it into something, and then as you go, the product becomes actually available to use. We have some different types of wool from an artist called Claudie Jongstra, who makes amazing felts using her own sheep. And then there is, wait, let me just check. the chat. Yeah, there is, ooh, here you can see it a little bit zoomed in. This is actually a natural rubber that's also actually used by camper shoes. And below, this is a project made out of human hair. So just to kind of give an idea of the diversity of these types of materials, what we're doing at the moment is actually, this library that you see here runs in parallel with a digital database. And with the Alliance, so with all of our 45 partners in Asia, in Latin America, and in Europe, we're currently crowdsourcing for more materials. So that have a, we have a materials policy. So you look at the environmental credentials, at the social credentials, transparency, where can you find all of this information? And then partners would do their own local research and add, so we're kind of crowdsourcing a materials database. So if you are an artist and you're looking for, well, let's say a material particularly from Mongolia, you might find rope made out of camel hair. Or if you're looking for a biomaterial from Chile, you will find that our partners in Chile make scobies the size of a swimming pool. They grow the scobies on the swimming pool. Or if you are looking for different recipes for making clay, you'll find our partners in Indonesia, Jatiwangi Art Factory, who have amazing clay recipes because they are based in what was a former brick factory, and that they're now turning into a big project called Terracotta City. So that way we kind of want to make access to this type of knowledge more available, more democratic, more widely spread. So when people have to make decisions concerning their practice, that they can make the right ones. Then lastly, we've just opened our Instagram, so you're also welcome to explore all the partners there, because there's so many and they do so many projects that I will be talking too long, and there's some amazing next speakers waiting. So you can find more information there.
Thank you, Yasmine. Wonderful. So
Pleasure.
wonderful in your lab.
Pleasure.
Arun, we're going to go to you next. And your sculpture and community work revolves around social justice as well as environmental concerns. So kindly tell us about your own work and your organization, the Sara Center. Thank you. Unmute yourself, Arun.
Am I not audible?
You're fine now. Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead. Perfect. Unmute yourself again.
Aduh, itu background aku mah yuk. Background aku yuk. Aku mah ngeliatin background yuk.
Can
There you
you hear me now?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So I would like to show some of my works which led to the idea of Sara Center, Sustainable Alternatives for Rural Accord. Majorly I would like to talk about that. Before that, I would like to show some of the works leading to that. So this is one of the important work that is done between 2007 to 2010. This is part of a larger body of work called Tract, shown in 2010. This is basically, bringing the agrarian issues onto the table. So literally on table. So why I was interested was because I myself coming from the farming family, which is still practicing, but failed as a failed as a farmer. I mean, it is not just my family. It is not just my family, or it is the large sector of farming sector is not doing well. It has failed. So that is where it is coming. So this work was done. Yeah. So this was actually literally grown on this table for with the season. So, and then this is also has got a sound piece. My grandmother singing to it. So yeah. So now from this work, I was very much interested in understanding this crisis, agrarian crisis, very closely, as close as possible. So I started spending more time on the ground, spending more time on the farm, recording, basically keeping in touch with the farmers, not really superficially, but really talking to them. And these are actually the portraits of the farmers that I know. Some of them are all also my, very close people. So these prints, I mean, these works are called guardians, and the vulnerable guardians. They're actually printed on the wood that I source from a municipal scrapyard now. So, yeah, moving back to these vulnerable guardians. I call these farmers guardians because they are the guardians of the soil health, they are the guardians of water management, they are the guardians of forest, they are the guardians of biodiversity and all. So they are actually the guardians of our environment, larger environment, but they are not in a good shape. So that is where the whole problem is. So this is another work from the same series, Vulnerable Guardians. You can see those lone farmers in the farm with lone trees. So this is actually a kind of a metaphoric use that to locate where are the other farmers gone. So basically, they all gone to basically migrated to the work in metros. So that this work is about that. And then I started recording, photographing these workers in every corner of the cities. Even this work is of the same series. You will see those. Basically, this is my journey um, in getting to know the crisis, the agrarian crisis in deeper. So these works, I mean, I'm showing very few works which are very pertinent to this topic. This is called construction, where all the migrated workers, they are actually farmers. So they are all, now we see them more on the street because they have come out because the farming business or farming occupation has really failed. So that is why they are on the migration to cities, and now they are going back to, because again this has failed them. So the material that I have used is all I get on the way. This is all trees collected from the construction sites, and then I bring it into my studio and then do things like this. This cement kind of thing is all paper pulp and glue. So this is basically that. And this wood is also collected from the industrial scrapyard in Gurgaon. basically in industrial town in Gurgaon, you will see thousands of tons of wood that has been put to recycle. Gurgaon is being just taking one example, that is Gurgaon, because you have many industries, and then they ship machines from one place to another, and then they use wood. So this is a kind of evidential material that I use for my work. So this is another work called Timeline of Backwash. This is also done over the time. This is again the same wood that I have collected from scrap yards, and I've added some graphics and also taken some graphical images from one of the early book, like 300-year-old volume, that is Hartus Malabaricus. It is commissioned by one Malabar, Dutch Malabar ruler in late 1700. So what he does is he documents all the flora and fauna of the Western Ghats. It is very important for us that how rulers, comparison. It's actually comparison of showing concern to the biodiversity and all. So this is another work from the same material, wood. So this is actually from done in 2015 onwards. Collected about 100,000 bottle tops near my society where I live over like 6 months, 6 months of time. Then I woven this material to give this. Basically, the idea was to. It was an exercise for me to collect various bottle tops, which comes in various size and carries water or all those liquids, cleaning agents, and all sort of things. It is basically to kind of map the consumption pattern of a society in a time. So then I just thought of putting it together to show the size of the material that we use. This is exhibited in Denmark. So this work, this is actually site-specific installation, was done in Mumbai Art Room in 2012. It was called Seed of Reckoning. This installation, that is the time actually I thought of moving my studio practice to the farm where my family is there. So this is the time I got different seeds and edible seeds and forest seeds and different kind of leaves, and so this became a material for this installation called Relief, and this is called Proceed. So this was actually the process that was leading for me to set SARA, Sustainable Alternatives for Rural Accord. You can see the details of the material seeds, different sizes, different kind of seeds. So this was basically, metro like Mumbai. Idea was to introduce, maybe see the connection people have with the biodiversity. It is very interesting, basically. So now coming to this SARA, this actually started working from 2011 onwards, and then in 2014 I started really in a constructive way. I needed a platform. On the left you see where this location is in the Western Ghats. This is where I grew up, and my family also lives there. and it is very important, this Western Ghats, because it is one of the hottest biodiversity, hotspots in the world, 10 biodiversity hotspots. And now it is slowly going away because of many developmental projects and agrarian crisis and all that. So you will see how this why I wanted this platform, because to work with the community very closely, you needed a kind of infrastructure to have meetings and various kind of things. Basically, the idea is here to use art as a medium. So so you will see what all the SARA is, how it is planning to accomplish this, what we call sustainable alternatives. So it comes, art is not just, one thing that we are here. I mean, we are basically connecting all the aspects of a community and all the aspects of environment, so that you can see here. So here we started, basically, the SARA is actually a place with many associates. There are theater activists, writers, environmentalists, and also it is not one person's entity. So here we meet and we plan, and we go into the community in a strategical way. This is one of our first venture getting into the community, visiting schools and visiting teachers and talking to them, and also school betterment committees, and gazing where they are in this environmental situation. So in 2017, we started getting more deeper into the community, and not just one place. We thought, we'll have a 6 days walkathon from one place to another. And in the meantime, we used to meet a lot of school children, teachers, and local governments and all that. So it was wonderful. We touched about 25,000 in 6 days, 25,000 people in 6 days. And we started working on this 6 months before, on the route, mobilizing the organizations to help us, our stay and meetings and things. So we asked about nearly 150 artist friends to, come up with special art posters for the walk. So here you have some, samples. There are artists from India and artist friends from abroad. So these are just a sample. They're all online, you can see. So we started walking from one place to another. I mean, it's just a few samples, how, our walk started, and how we took images. It's not just images, basically, it was part of the whole, engagement, community engagement. Yeah, and then on the way, we used to make murals on walls, and so there were about 20 young artists participated in this walk on their own, and it was really a wonderful experience for the first time with such a large project. We went through villages and cities, and we were gauging people's response. Yeah, and then we also tried to do similar walk in 2018, but we chose a different stretch, slightly shorter time. Again, here we managed to reach about 10,000 school children and many more, people, about 40 local organizations. They were with us, and they now they're all under one umbrella organization that we have done, that is written in local language. So so it is very democratic. Anybody can join in and get into action. So here we had a different model of displaying posters and things. There were performances and all that on the way. Again, murals. So we also have many seminars and workshops on biodiversity, sustainability, and various issues time to time. So it is all basically organized by, anybody can just come in with their idea, can we do this here? And we just do it. So the participation is really, really good. So this was in 2018. This was on biodiversity and challenges. And some of the images that you see of the workshops and lectures and, small residencies, all that. So, so far we moved from place to place, and then 2019 onwards, we thought of working concretely in a place and not really moving and not really touch and go. So we thought of choosing 4 villages out of 4 panchayats. Our program is really concentrating on a very local issues and local issues. So here we have chosen 4 villages under the concept of Swagrama. It is basically Mahatma Gandhiji's village Swaraj idea. That didn't really take off then, and while we were working out, it came out very similar to what Gandhiji was thinking and writing. So our ideas are very much similar. That's why we thought Swagrama sustainable village model. So we are there with them, basically to stay with them for a year, and I'm sure we will go on with them. So this is all listening to them, their aspirations, and all those. It is not easy to get into the community there. We have had a lot of issues, but slowly we gained the trust of the local people, and there are a lot of resistance and politics and all, but we had to really navigate all that. So as a first step, actually what you see here this is fundamental Swagrama project. So we encompass all the basic issues, and including the rural economy and health and education, and also concentrating on the rural knowledge bank. Whatever is left, like folk art, tribal art, and everyday art, and even uh, so the oral knowledge. So we are into it. So we have a lot of meetings, like every week we have. It's very difficult to catch hold of them because they don't want to lose their day job, and but still they started coming in. And the first thing what we took is water security. So water security, we thought, that's where we can play a bigger role in involving them in reviving lakes. And if the, I mean, the local geography is very different than the other areas. Here you have granite underneath, and water is a huge issue in the. So we thought of concentrating on reviving lakes as a first step. So, and we have also made many other projects, but this is the first step that we did, and you can see the involvement of people there. And once we have these lakes full, then we have ecology intact, like birds and animals, and the water security for everything. So this is very, very recent work, and this is a complete. This is actually a very huge lake, and in this work we don't go with money. It is all the money is already in government projects, like horticulture, agriculture, and irrigation, and so all that is there. We just have to mobilize, um, and we also ask the villagers to chip in, and we just somehow manage these projects. So now coming to the last part of it, it is there is in the center, in Sara Center, we are planning to have some content that is related to local environmental issues. Like we have movements because of people migrated because of the hydroelectrical projects, and uh, also introduction of the foreign tree species, and how that has disrupted local biodiversity and local life. So our plan is to have an archive of in what we have termed is deeds of development and citizens account. So this is basically what we are trying to do is find all the material that is in public domain, the testimonials, visual and research material, articles by scholars and environmentalists and thinkers. So it is all there, but it is not available in one place. So we want to bring it all and put it in one place, which is mostly, to people can relate to the local issues. Like, this is basically all that.
Thank
Uh,
you. We
yeah.
have to
I'm
almost
up. Just last 1 minute. Okay.
wonderful.
Yeah. So this is all there. You can see we have taken 4 case studies, which is including, the agrochemicals use, what happened in Kasaragod, Kerala, that endosulfan. We have so much of material and everything, but it doesn't really reach to the people while they use agrochemicals in their farming. So basically, we are bringing in all these materials together and put it together. So this is where you see how, I mean, we need all developments, but not in a devastation. It has to be in a balance. That is our point, basically. So this is actually the monoculture acacia, how it grows, and then suddenly you cut down everything, and then along with that you remove the biodiversity. So this is an example of endosulfan in Kerala. There is so much material available. People have worked, people have made documentaries on the effects of endosulfan on people, how it has got into the water bodies and all that. So this is basically what we are planning, and it's already halfway through. We just have to put it up there. So this is basically a content for the children and teacher and locals to come and see. If we don't take uh, timely action, it can simply ruin over. I mean, all the case studies that we have taken is about 60, 70, 60 years, 40 years, 30 years of effects. So I close here. Thank you.
Arun, how wonderful, inspiring. Thank you so much, both for your work and your Sara Center. And Yasmine, thank you for all your inspiration. Our last speaker is Laurent Fournier, and as an ecological architect, he's interested in indigenous styles and stands in harmony with the local environment, both in design and spirit. So please tell us about your passion and principles in your work in regards to materiality. Laurent, thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you, everyone. I share the screen of my presentation. Yes. Yes. So I will I'm architect, and I have always been interested in actually in the concept of health. Health as something which has become just now with this coronavirus crisis very visible, something which cannot be separated between people. It means my health and the health of my neighbor are completely dependent on each other. And this is something we realize right now during this crisis. It has always been true, but before it was like more abstract. And now we just realize that if we take care of our health, it has positive consequence for our neighbor and vice versa, and it extends to the animals, to the earth, and to the entire earth. I want to start with an anecdote of two of my wonderful clients, Linus and Rupsha, which you see here. They are having coffee in their toilets. And so this is their toilet. It is an eco-sanitation. It is a zero discharge toilet. It does not generate any black water. And this is a toilet which has been designed by Dr. Debaldeb since 2001. He has made a number of these toilets in his various farms. And here I wanted to make semi-urban implementation. It is in Baripur, in the outskirts of Kolkata. And the toilet is located at the first floor. So it's an adaptation of the original design by Dr. Debaldeb. I want to show, so this is a principle. You have three separate outlets. One for the excreta, one for the urine. And in India, we wash ourselves with water, so we need a third outlet for the wash water. So this design allows you to not move. You sit in one place and you have a lever on the left, which diverts the wash water when you wash yourself. So it's like more comfortable than having to move over two different places, like you have in the traditional eco-san. And the end result is exactly the same. You have three different outlets. So at the bottom of the slide, you can see the treatment of what comes out. On the left, you have the excreta. It falls on a vault which is ventilated. It is above ground, above flood level. So nothing goes underground. Everything happens above the ground. And it is left to dry in a basket, and Linus and Rupsha need about 6 months to fill one basket. They have 3 baskets in the vault. So it means each basket has more than 6 months, almost a year, to dry. It is not only some composting takes place, fungus action. This Debaldeb could explain better than me, but he says it is basically composting or also oxidization, during which the germs are killed and the volume is reduced. You even have the insect is what we call a gobble poker. They come and they collect the material for themselves. And after, when it has been dried and sterilized, you can throw it in your garden. It has absolutely no smell. It is a kind of powder, which is totally sterile and harmless. Then the second product, the urine, it falls in a small plastic tank, which you can use immediately in your garden as a fertilizer. And the third effluent, it is a wash water. The wash water is treated in a root zone treatment, and in which plants are growing, and the only nutrient available to these plants is whatever tiny material is present in the gray water from washing. The water from the kitchen, from the shower, and also from the toilet, means from washing on the toilet, not black water, but the gray water. Everything goes into this root zone, and from there it goes into a surface ditch. And Linus and Rupsha have done testing, and this water is of swimming pool quality, not drinking quality, but swimming pool quality. Now I want to show a video showing the mechanism. I am trying to, yes. So here you can see, yes, when you open the lever, you see how the water can be diverted. So this is a chute in which the excreta falls. This is for the urine in front, made of a water bottle.
We don't see
when you
don't
yes.
see the
Yes. Yes. So we return to the presentation. No, sorry. Yes. So I was slightly apprehensive when I did this toilet because Linus and Rupsha are the first client who were brave enough to try it. And then I asked them, so how is it going after 3 months? And Rupsha told me it's wonderful. It is so much cleaner, so much easy to maintain. Because you don't have any water, you don't have any bowl, so there is no splashing on the sides. So it's also much more hygienic. Right now with the coronavirus, we worry about the contamination in toilets. You know, when you have a toilet bowl, you have water, you have splashing. When you flush the toilet, you have the virus coming out. So a waterless toilet is much, oh, sorry, I have to close this. Sorry. You come back to, yes. Now this is the rest of the house. So it's a house which combines many materials. You have reinforced concrete frame. So reinforced concrete columns, reinforced concrete beams, but you don't have slabs. Instead, you have the shallow domes. Shallow domes is an art developed by master masons from Uttar Pradesh and the last 30 years, which are quicker to build than a concrete slab. So we use only domes instead of concrete slab in this house, and all the walls are mud walls. Very thin mud walls, actually. It is what's called a wattle and daub. It is a bamboo frame, plastered with mud and finished with lime, and some places we finished also with cow dung. This is the first floor. You can see the dome mystery on the bottom right, making a staircase by the same technique that he is doing a dome. It's a kind of helicoidal dome, you can see, resting at 3 different levels on the side. And above, you have also a bamboo staircase made of bamboo and mud. This is a school made of bamboo on the masonry. Ground floor is masonry and first floor is bamboo in the Sundarbans. So this, hey, what happened? Oh, 1 minute.
Sorry, we have a technical difficulty with Laurent. We hope he comes back on. Meanwhile, I just appreciate how inspiring everything has been, and to thank you all for coming in from all around the world, Canada, Europe, USA, all over India. Thank you so much for being with us. Laurent, can you come back on?
Helen, I wanted to interrupt here. Laurent's battery has gone, so he will re-enter in 1 minute, but you can carry on with Q&As for the others.
Okay, thank you. So Yasmine and Arun, do you think that this isolation is going to serve to unify and accelerate and expand our global paradigms that are more, so they'll be more humane and resourceful? Yasmine, would you like to take that question first, please?
Sure. I mean, it's hard. That's hard to say at this point, I think. I mean, at first, of course, we need to understand that it's like a human tragedy. And in the discourse, I know a lot of environmentalists, and myself, I also do it. We also like to think of the positive things that might come out of this in relation to connection, but also, you know, skies clearing up and fish being back in the water, and you know, so it's I don't know, it's kind of twofold. There is of course some positives, but then for a lot of people, you know, and a lot of people are losing their lives, and also jobs, incomes, futures, you know. So I think that's a really tough one. What I find interesting specifically in relation to, let's say, environmental art is that I feel that there is and will be like an increased interest also in working with natural materials, working with seeds, working with farmers, you know, this interdisciplinary kind of exchange. Also because of this virus, you know, it's a zoonotic disease. So it's really so directly related to a loss of habitat for species, a loss of biodiversity, the meat industry, for instance. You know, those are the places and the context in which these diseases come to existence. So, you know, if we are not aware of that, it will only become more. It will be, you know, there will be many other viruses, and there might be more aggressive too. And I think a lot of people are also realizing this relationship to biodiversity, habitat destruction, livestock, like intense farming, and are, you know, coming to this realization and searching for alternatives and for different ways also of living their lives. So in that sense, I really notice a difference in terms of how many people are curious or finding alternative ways of living, of working, you know, perhaps some end of capitalism, of neoliberist thinking. And that means that there is also an increased need for, you know, connecting the peripheries, and suddenly people, you know, it becomes less attractive to be perhaps in a city all on top of each other. So there's also a renewed interest for the countryside and for, you know, a relationship to your own food. If you can't go to the supermarket, we're gonna have to be growing our own foods. So yeah, it's definitely a really interesting shift, and like you said, perhaps a paradigm shift.
Yes, thank you. And Arun, I think one of the questions I have is there's going to be, or is already, fatigue around the virus. So how is that going to implant itself on your concern for our environmental issues? Will we have the energy and the renewal, not a redux, but a renewal to go forward with environmental projects like you've been doing with the SARA Center? How do we deal with that fatigue and transfer it into something that's vital and critical and looking ahead? You have to unmute yourself, Arun.
Oh,
Me or Lauren is there, so
I am here. 1 minute. I am unmuting.
We'll come back to the question, Arun.
Yes.
so I want to be quick here. See, as Yasmine said, we could have avoided the part of the tragedy if we didn't have, you know, people coming, you know, from rural area to the urban centers, so in so much numbers. And if we were quite sustainable in wherever we were, things would have been much better and less tragic. And to carry on our projects, I think it is, you know, now it will help because people are moving back and realizing why should, the question of again, why should everything be in city and why should everyone needs to go to the city? Why can't we have our needs met in wherever we are? That is basically the thing that will be addressed, I'm sure. And that is what we are basically trying to do that. Why should everything be in a city, and why should everybody go to city for hunting knowledge or work? So that is our
Thank you, everyone. Very good answer. Laurent, we're ready for you to complete your presentation, please.
Thank you so much. I'm very sorry, my battery went off and it took time for the computer to wake up. So very quickly, can you see the screen? Can you see the?
Not
okay.
yet. The screen is not visible yet.
Oh, okay. Oh yes, I have to go to share screen. Okay. Share screen. Yes. Share screen.
Yes, and go to full view, please. So go to the
Yes.
view section, not to the file,
View.
to the
Yes,
view.
yes, view full screen.
Full screen mode.
Is it working now?
Yes.
Yes, okay. This is a rural college in Orissa, made of load-bearing stone masonry. Again, we use the shallow domes from Uttar Pradesh and a bamboo frame supporting a tiled roof covered with Mangalore tiles. And so you can see above the exterior view and below the interior view, where it is basically a kind of vault made of intercrossing bamboo arches. This is inside view in the same building. This part of the building is a food processing unit for millet processing. So you see these brick domes, they are 15 feet by 14 feet span. And one dome can be built in 4 days by one mason and one helper, which is 1/3 of the time required for a concrete slab. And it is slightly cheaper than a concrete slab. This is a house in Pollani in the north of Kolkata, where we also use these brick domes. This is a load-bearing house, and bamboo veranda and the local roof tiles. And here you can see various dome artisan. On the top right, you can see the technique from Rohtak in Haryana, where the pattern is a spiral. And on the left bottom, you can see the technique which is used since a few years in West Bengal, where it is a rectangular pattern. And the other pictures are an experimental stone dome in Uttarakhand, because in some parts of the country, the bricks are very expensive because there is no earth available, so you have to bring bricks by truck, but stones are readily available and almost free. Okay, here you have an overview of the dome seen from the top. This is something I wanted to mention. You know, we always think of how we build our building. We don't think so often of how they will evolve, and we almost never think of how they will end. But obviously, every building will end one day. I mean, human beings die and building also die. So we should think, how will our building die? Will it disappear in a violent manner with a fire or an earthquake, or will it disappear in a gentle way like most buildings of the past? For example, we reuse their beams, we reuse their stones, their brick. So buildings of the past are generally still an asset, even when they are a ruin. And contemporary building, it's the opposite. In many cities, land has more value without building than with outdated building. Next slide is a bit terrible. I'm sorry, but I'll just give some examples of events in the last few years. We have an epidemic of plastic in buildings. Due to this epidemic of plastic, the time to flashover. The flashover is a moment when the entire room is engulfed in fire and no one can enter inside. So it was about half an hour in 1970, and today it is 4 minutes. and no firefighting teams can reach a site in 4 minutes. It's just impossible. And this is something which is strangely not addressed, not talked about. Here you can see on the bottom left an experiment done by one of the oldest and largest insurance companies in the US. So this is something, as architect, we have to go beyond the commercial formalities and go into the details of what we are actually doing and think about the materials. And for this, we depend on the artisans. Because as architect, we only do drawings, and a drawing is geometry. The grammar is geometry. We have the points, the lines, descriptive geometry, and so on. But what is our vocabulary? Our vocabulary is what the artisans do with their hands. And if we don't keep in close relationship with the artisans, we are not able to renew our vocabulary and to renew the architecture that we are actually doing. So these are some of the artisans which basically help me to become the architect that I am today. And also very important to connect to the clients. It's much better to have a client with whom you don't agree, but will have his own ideas, strong ideas, than a client who is not sure about what they want. Essentially, all my successful projects were because the client had a very strong idea about what they wanted. And this is about all my partners and colleagues and students and people who helped me make my buildings over the years. And one last word I would like to mention, there is a talk in India in the last few days about Atmanirbhar, independence. And what we realize in this crisis is rather the opposite. It is interdependence. We have to realize that I cannot be healthy if my neighbor is not healthy. My house, if I make a healthy house, it is healthy for the workers, it is healthy for the environment, it is healthy for the owner, it is healthy for my guests, it is healthy for the children of my guests. It is also even healthy for the demolisher. When the house will vanish one day, it will not harm the environment. So you see, we have this concept of transitive and intransitive verbs. Health is a kind of intransitive concept. It is not health of something or someone, it is just health. And so we have to work with this idea of togetherness. And I want to mention this because I was quite shocked when politically this idea came in India in the last few weeks of so-called self-reliance, when what we are realizing is how much we depend on others and how much we can help others and how powerless we are to help ourselves. So we really need to realize this togetherness and interdependence right now in this coronavirus crisis. Thank you.
Wonderful note to end on. Thank you, Laurent. I wish I could get all of the three panelists together in a room. You have so much to share, and it's been an extraordinary webinar. I really thank all of you. I thank the Institut Français. I want to let you know, audience, that we will have another webinar next Monday, May 25th, about the impact of regional language, moderated by Achia Anzi. So we hope you will join us then. And my great thanks to everyone who joined us today. Stay well.
Yes.
I think Michael Pestel wants has a question. So
Thank you, Mike.
Hello, Sana. Isabel, can you unmute Helen?
Experience with step wells, and whether this might be a feature of his architectural, incredibly inspiring architecture, whether these ancient forms of storing water and gathering water might be effective.
Yeah, so I live in West Bengal, and
I can't hear you anymore, Laurent. Maybe you're muted.
oh, no, can you hear me?
Yes.
Now
Yes.
I can, yes.
Yes. So I worked as a volunteer for Tulun Balatsang about nearly 20 years ago now, but in Rajasthan. But as an architect, I never worked on stepwell. So I don't have any knowledge going beyond what the general public knows. I am also fascinated by these stepwells, and I hope one day I will have opportunity to work on it.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. Yes.
That's great. That's great. I've done a lot of research on them, and
Oh,
certainly in the dry areas, they're really
yes.
really amazing structures.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
If anyone else has a question, please unmute yourself and ask the question. Thank you, Michael.
Sure.
Are there any other questions from the attendees? You can put it in the chat. Well, if not, I again want to thank our wonderful panelists and the Institut Français. We believe these webinars at this point are really helpful to liberate our ideas as we're in the pandemic. We believe that the creation versus crisis comes alive in each one of our subjects. And I want to tell you that next Monday, May 25th, we'll have a wonderful webinar around the impact of regional language, and that is moderated by Anxia Anzi. So please join us at the same time next week. With great appreciation to the wonderful panelists for your discourse, and to everyone who joined us from all over the world today. We wish you all the best. Stay well, stay safe. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Helen, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.